Conscious Noob. How y'all doing? I want to come to y'all with something I feel is very important. Stop saying our ancestors died for our right to vote. That's inaccurate in my book. Our ancestors died, factually, our ancestors died from white racism. If they did anything, if they died for us for any reason, it would be for our liberation, I would argue. Not for our right to vote for a candidate who does nothing for the advancement of our people. Not the right to vote for a candidate who has no plans to help that people. Not to vote for a candidate who lies, who in one era calls us super predators in the 90s, and in the next era is apologetic about it because she knows that wasn't the right thing to say. That smells like a lie to me. Now, one thing, people hate Donald Trump because he's misogynistic, he's racist, he's ignorant towards Islam, he's all these different things, but what I call him is honest. He's an honest white man. Do I agree with what he has to say? No. I disagree 110%, but I do understand and see that he's honest. Because he's saying what a lot of white people would love to say. And that's why people love him, because he's speaking their truth. Whether or not, now, whether you like it or not, and you know, that's up to you, but that's just the facts of it. Now, why do I criticize, or why do it seem like I'm being critical of Hillary? I'm not critical of Hillary Clinton at all. But I believe, as Malcolm X said, that the Republicans and the Democrats are two fangs of the same snake. So, in my opinion, I do believe that they gave us Donald Trump so that we have no other choice but to vote for Hillary. I'm not voting because I know Hillary Clinton is going to win. Why? Because she's a Bilderberg. What is a Bilderberg? That's a secret society who President Bush is in, President Obama is in, former President Clinton was in, as well as his wife, and other political leaders of this country and other countries. That's a group of people who get together and discuss education, politics, money, and things like that. Now, people are saying this is the society that runs the world. We have no actual proof because the reports are not released to the public. It's only released to those who are in the Bilderberg group. So that right there lets me know that they have a bigger hand in this than we do. We have to be wary of political tricks. Our history is full of political tricks. If you do not know your history, you shall repeat it. The person that my martyr for today is going to be Lyndon B. Johnson. He was very praised by black people for the voting rights bill, the Civil Rights Bill of '65 and the Voting Rights Bill of '64. Or excuse me if I have my dates wrong, but he was praised by black people. He's the reason that we vote Democrat to this day. And he said in a quote, "I will have those niggers voting Democrat for the next 200 years." But in public, he said he wanted a black and white, a black and white society to live in peace, things like that. But in his personal time, he used the words like nigger. He used words like coon. So it lets me know that he does not really mean what he says. He's only saying what's politically correct. Because white people are thinking down the road, unlike us, for the most part. Why else do I use Lyndon B. Johnson? Because he did things like the Voting Rights Bill and the Civil Rights Act and things like that. But what did he also do? He also enacted 501c3. What is 501c3? That is a tax exemption for non-profit organizations such as churches. I'll use that example because that's what it falls under. And they can get tax cuts, or they're exempt from from taxes if they follow certain rules. What are some of the rules? You cannot lobby for certain legislation. You cannot be critical of political parties. You cannot back a certain political candidate. Why is that important to us, Ryan? Well, I'll tell you why it's important. Because in our movement, our Black Power movement, our Black Liberation movement, the real BLM, Black Liberation movement, we sing. It seems that we are the most influenced by spiritual leaders. Malcolm X was a spiritual leader, the Nation of Islam. Elijah Muhammad as well, Nation of Islam. Noble Drew Ali with more science. Martin Luther King was a Christian. So a lot of people cling to spiritual leadership. That is how we get things done. When even to the local preachers back in the 60s, in the 50s and 60s, they would educate or bring to light some of the issues that the congregation needs to do. So being the conniving, sneaky, individual that these white men are, they saw that and they said, well, if we can control what they're being told, some sort of like slavery after the Nat Turner resurrection, you couldn't meet in churches without a white man being present. It's similar to that almost. It's what it seems like. So you have this 501c3 that is enacted in the 60s, I believe 69 or 68. And by that, you cannot, talk about political things in church to get this tax. I mean, if you want to get the tax cuts, you can't talk about certain things. And to this day, 501c3 is criticized for its violation of the First Amendment. So that right there also lets me know that they can that if they want to, they can create some legal term, some legal phraseology, because these people that are in Congress, that are Supreme Court justices, are the masters of English. They know the legal terms up and down. They know how to phrase things to make them seem like it's one thing, but it's actually doing another. Because the English language, in my opinion, is a language of liars. That's the only language where you can say one word and it has 4 different meanings. So we have to be wary of political tricks. We have to be wary also, like a political trick, the Emancipation Proclamation. For as another example that our government does perform these things. Another political trick. The Emancipation Proclamation states that all slaves or people enslaved in the rebelling states are now free. Well, what sense does that make? If they're rebelling and they're fighting against you with their own army, their own general, their own president, what does your laws have to do with us? That's another way to gain support, which is why also black people voted Republican up until the 60s after the Voting Rights Act, like I spoke about earlier. So what all I'm saying all this to say that we have to stop giving our support, our vote away for free. We have to stop giving stuff without asking for anything. We don't ask our candidates to do anything. Where Hillary Clinton has the black vote in her bag just because what? No reason. She's not. If you go on her website right now, she specifically talks about what she's going to do for immigrants. She specifically talks about what she's going to do for women. But she never specifically talks about. She even specifically talks about what she's going to do for transgenders. But she never specifically talks about what she's going to do for African Americans. You can go to her website right now and look at it. And we have to do that because it's a thing called benign neglect. Also during the Lyndon Johnson administration, what benign neglect is that if we don't say anything about it, then we don't technically have to do anything for these people. So they use terms like minority, things like that, special interest, so they don't have to pay attention to a specific group of people. I feel that black people should have a different perspective of voting because we have a different different reality, a different history in this country. No other subgroup in America has been through what the black African man and woman has been through. So I urge us to maybe not saying don't vote for Hillary Clinton, but if you do that, create a black political union that actually contributes money and actually has a state of mind or a position that's going to advance us economically, educationally, whatever you want it to be. We need something in hand. We need something that we can touch. We don't need to be asking for equal rights anymore because that's stupid. I believe that if Martin Luther King and Malcolm X had the access to information that we have, they would have been asking for completely different things. See, we're still stuck in their paradigm of their thinking. We have to go beyond what they thought of because they don't have what we have to work with. They don't get to see things for what they are like we really do. So I urge people to use your vote, not just cast it. Because an ignorant vote is just as bad as not voting at all. If you're voting for a person just because, like most people are voting Democrat because Barack Obama probably was the black president and Democrats had the first black president, that probably secured the black vote for another 300 years on top of the 200 that Lyndon Johnson guaranteed us to vote for Democrat. So I just want to make a video to be somewhat eye-opening. I want to make a video to be thought-provoking. I don't have all the answers, and I'm not actually coming up here to take a stance on who I'm voting for, who I'm not voting for. But what I want you to realize is that we do have an option. We don't just have to pick who we have here. It is other ways to get into that. What I urge, because this election is pretty much over, for the next 4 years, let's start now. Let's create a think tank of black, of black leaders in our community, and see what we really need to do. What do we actually need to happen so that we can stop the crime, so we can stop brothers from selling drugs, so we can stop people from being miseducated, so we can stop kids from having to do some of the crazy things that they're doing. What can we do? So that's just, that's another video to talk about, but I just wanted to just bring this out there and just challenge some of your thoughts. If you have any comments, please, put them below. We can debate about this. I can go into some greater detail of why I use political trick, that term, so much. We can go into a conversation about that. But until that time, just continue to read. I cannot stress that enough. Continue to read and research. That will be the keys to your freedom and your own mental liberation. When you free yourself, you're freeing everyone else. So this is Conscious Snoop, man, and I appreciate your time.